Good afternoon, everyone, and a Happy New Year to you all. And the first item of business this afternoon is time for reflection. Our time for reflection leader today is the Reverend Ian Miller, retired minister of Bonhill Parish Church, Alexandria, and the Reverend Miller is also a freeman of West Dunbartonshire. Mr. Miller.
Thank you. A good New Year to you all, Presiding Officer and members of the Scottish Parliament. When Charles Kettering of General Motors wanted a problem solved, he would call a meeting and he would say to them, "Leave your slide rules outside." If he didn't, he said, someone during the meeting would assuredly say, "Boss, you can't do that." Isn't that true no matter what we try to do in life? There's always somebody saying, "You can't do that." And as politicians, I suspect you know that more than most. Robert Fulgham tells the story of the primary school that decided to stage the story of Cinderella. All the girls, of course, wanted to be Cinderella, but finally all the pupils got a part, except one wee lad. His name was Norman. The teacher said, "Norman, what are you going to be?" Norman said, "I think I'll be the pig." The teacher said, "Norman, there is no pig in the story of Cinderella." Norman said, "Well, there is now." The teacher could tell it was daft to argue with him, so she left it to Norman to decide what part the pig would play. As it turned out, the pig went everywhere that Cinderella went. The pig did everything that Cinderella did. Norman had nothing to say, but his face reflected what was going on. When things were serious, he was serious. When things were happy, he was happy. When things looked difficult, he looked worried. And he began to fill the whole stage with his presence. At the end of it all, when the princess was carried off by her prince to live happily ever after, Norman stood up on his hind legs and barked. Now, in rehearsals, this had been a problem because the teacher said, "Look, Norman, even if there is a pig in the story, pigs do not bark." And Norman said, "Well, this one does." You can imagine what happened the night of the first performance. There was a standing ovation at the end of it all for the pig. Word got around and people called up the school and said, "What's so special about this play?" The teacher said, "Well, there's a pig in it, actually, a barking pig." And the person at the other end of the telephone would say, "But there is no barking pig in Cinderella." And the teacher would say, "Well, there is now." Norman was a wee fella who wouldn't let other people set boundaries. He was going to be what he was going to be. Without risk-takers, the world would not move forward. No new relationships would be formed. No new businesses would be started. No new homes would be built. No new initiatives. And almost certainly, nobody would ever want to be a politician. Helen Keller surely got it right when she said, "Life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing." God bless you in whatever risks you may have to take in government or in opposition for the good of this country of ours in the year 2013. God bless.